So, Devil May Cry has been somewhat of a hot topic recently. And the reason being is because the anime had just released and that wasn't received too well by some people. When I say some, I mean most of the fan base, as they usually are. And I'm gonna say it right now, it's really hard to please Devil May Cry fans because they are so anal on how they want Dante to be in each and every different medium. And speaking of times where fans were critical on Dante being not Dante in different mediums or different series or even the reboot. One thing I want to put in your head right now, isn't it crazy how people hated Dante from the reboot Devil May Cry series when Nero is basically that Dante? And no, I don't mean continuity wise, and no, I don't mean he is literally that person. No, I mean it as in Nero pretty much talks the same way that the Dante from the Devil May Cry reboot series does, and no one had a problem or has a problem with it. I want to explore some reasons as to why that may be the case. Well, if you go back and actually really think about it, the only reason why people have a problem with the reboot of Devil May Cry is because of the main character is Dante in that series, and he doesn't look like what people were used to. So literally, if he was any other character or just a made-up character or given any other name other than Dante, I think people would have had a better time accepting him into the series. And that's pretty much what happened though. That Devil May Cry reboot Dante was basically reformed into Devil May Cry 5's Nero. Of course, Devil May Cry 4 came before the reboot series, but in Devil May Cry 4 we see Nero showing a little bit of that cocky fuck you attitude, which is played up to the extreme in 5, which is exactly how the Devil May Cry reboot Dante acted. It's funny that people had a problem with reboot Dante, but because of the way he acted and he sounded like an angsty teenager, well, that's because he pretty much was. He was a younger version of Dante. How is he supposed to sound? And this is supposed to be a more realistic version of the character, which I enjoyed pretty much because it's not what we are used to. It's not the cartoonish type Dante that we get in Devil May Cry 1 and 3 and even 2. We get a more kind of Americanized, more realistic version of what Dante could be like in the real world. And I thought that take was pretty cool, to be honest with you. And plus his guns actually do look better than what Dante has now. They just feel like regular guns, and the reboot series, their guns look fucking demonic and actually cool. But this isn't just about comparing Dante to Dante. This is saying that Nero basically is Dante. So let's go back to that point there. People hated when Devil May Cry reboot Dante would cuss and use this language, and which I thought was fine at the time, but other people didn't seem to feel that way. But when Nero does it, he screams fuck you to the top of your lungs and he throws up the middle finger, does all of this. It makes him cool. How does that make sense to anyone in this world? You know what I feel like? I feel like the Devil May Cry fanbase is so hard to please because they're like a fucking cult. So I was really surprised when Nero got accepted into the fan base. Like, that was really a surprising moment for me. And I'm glad that he stuck around because it was 2 games where he was the main character and no one really had any problems from what I remember. I didn't remember hearing anything bad about Nero at that time, especially considering how the Devil May Cry fan base is. If you show anything new to them, I think they're just willing to throw it down and keep what they already have. In all honesty, I really wish the Devil May Cry fanbase was open to new ideas because we would get so much more out of the series if that was the case. And think about how many more people would want to jump on the train of Devil May Cry because it could cater to other things that people like too as well. Because as you see with most things, if it doesn't evolve, no one really gravitates to it anymore. But for some reason, Dante is something that the fans love to keep a constant. I really hope that the game devs decide to make an evolutionary change towards the character and give him more depth, because I like the way they did him in Devil May Cry, and him going from Devil May Cry to 4 to 5, I feel like he's definitely matured over time, but still has those tendencies that he did in Devil May Cry 3, which makes it, you know, very cool. But again, talking about Nero and how he's so much similar to Devil May Cry reboot Dante, One, the hairstyle. He has shorter hair than he did in Devil May Cry 4. All you had to do was change his hair to black and it would literally be damn near the same character. And if they did that, that would have been a fucking nightmare for the community because they would have been going through the reboot series all over again. Funny how much of a difference a hair color change can make. So we got the mannerisms. 2, we got the hairstyle. But what will be one more thing to convince you that Nero and Devil May Cry Reboot Dante are pretty much the same, especially because the thing those two have in common is their actions towards humans. See, Dante in the other games, he doesn't seem to vocalize how much he cares for human as he does in a reboot and how much Nero does as well. When Nero and Reboot Dante fight, they fight specifically to protect everything that is human, the human race in general, and the people that they love around them. They don't fight for themselves. They don't fight because they genuinely want to. They kind of just do it because they have to. Now, as for the original Dante, we see him go out having fun killing demons and not really worrying about who dies and who doesn't. He cares about the humans, obviously, and he will defend them to a certain degree, but he doesn't really care for being the hero and saving the whole world and making it a magical place. No, he just kind of does it because 1, he enjoys it, and 2, because that's pretty much his business. Even though he does do some missions sometimes for free, which makes sense. I see why. Sometimes he just wants to be a good guy and help out. Like, come on, after that third one, there's no way you can't be like, wow, these actually are the same characters. You can't deny it. At this point, mentioning those points to you, I hope you got over the fact that you can't deny it anymore. These are pretty much the same character, just repackaged in a different way. Well, let's say a different body. So if you agree with me or disagree with me, man, just go ahead and type it down in the comments below. Nothing you can say can faze me, my brother. Go ahead, type anything at this point. Other than that, if you liked the video, go ahead and like it. And if you didn't, well, you know what to do. Other than that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel because, bro, you already know I need the motherfucking help. And you can probably see me do some better things later on in the future, okay? So go ahead and subscribe, my brother.